Sweet. Good evening, everyone. Uh, Today, we're going to talk a little bit about referee, coach, really crew communication. One of the things that we kind of talked about during the off season, as far as as we've been going around and going to different clinics and talking to folks about things that could be worked on based on the previous season, is really talking with coaches and dealing with unusual situations or even the usual, you know, um, and kind of making sure that we're communicating with coaches clearly. And then the other part is well, one of the things we talked about was having in the can. We talk about having canned answers for coaches. You want to make sure that you're not trying to come up with stuff off the top of your head. You really want to be prepared for those conversations. So just like we talk about referees and having announcements, as officials, no matter what position you're in, especially if you're on the sideline, we really want to make sure that you're in a position to appropriately communicate, so we're not surprised by what's going on. So what I'm going to do here is share my screen and kind of go through a presentation, then we'll go through some plays. And I've got Mr. Derek Latimer online. Hey there, Mr. Latimer. How you doing today, sir?
Williams, how you doing today?
Brilliant. So, Mr. Latimer today, actually, Mr. Latimer, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us where you work and what you do.
All right. Thanks for that introduction, Billy. My name again is Derek Latimer. I am official in the Coastal Ivy Patriot, which we all call the CIP. Third year, two playoff appearances, maybe three. I can't remember now. I did get the opportunity to officiate the national semifinals a few years ago. An excellent game that went down to the wire. I'm a line of scrimmage official. And I would say one of my sweet spots is communication. Now, if my wife heard that, she may think otherwise, but I truly think my my ability to communicate with coaches as well as crew members and players, I say is exceptional. So that's where I am right now, and I look forward to talking with the rest of everyone here on the call.
Super. So, the biggest deal, and the reason why I wanted to make sure that I had Mr. Latimer online since Nick wasn't online was to make sure that we had someone that could talk a little bit about the line of scrimmage experience and, kind of be able to provide some insight on how line of scrimmage officials communicate. And so, and obviously this is group discussion. So if there's questions as we go along, let me know. So let's get to the screen. Yes, do that. And we'll make sure we're up to this. Yeah. All right. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. Sweet. So the biggest deal here with our pictures here on the front, whether you're talking to got to make sure you got wags there, always having a looking at what's going on. But whether you're working high school, you're working college or the pros, that conversation with the coach is one that can be intense or it can be friendly, depending on whether or not you got what you need to say. So one of the things I always like to start out with is talking about perspective. Officials are people, coaches are people, and so as we talk about coaches being people, you got to look at start with the coach's perspective. So I went to a clinic many years ago, a basketball clinic, and one of the assistant coaches, former assistant coaches for the University of Florida, after they won their 2 years back-to-back championships, who at the time was head basketball coach in Division One. He was, he's talking about your experience as a coach, and it was like every day is his birthday was the best way to explain it. Everywhere you go, everyone's excited to see you. Everyone, anytime you ask for anything, folks want to give it to you. People, you got rooms full of people that want to hear what you have to say. You got press conferences where, people schedule conversations with you and they spend hours, just asking you questions to hear what you have to say. You got teams, players, coaches that, their job is to, hear your strategies, get your input, and, hear everything about what they have to say. And then you turn around, you get to game day, and they got recruits that are there, and they got parents, and everyone's always interested in what they have to say. And then they talk to the official. Official's like, no, stop. I don't want to hear what you have to say. It's like, whoa, wait, everyone wants to hear what I have to say. Or no, coach, that's enough. That's enough. When can anyone ever get enough of what I have to say? It's just it's a very different interaction. And so kind of going into that is interesting. For a lot of coaches, as we get into college, doesn't matter whether we're talking Division 3, Division 2, or Division 1. There's a livelihood on the line. There's a discussion about their families and the effort that it takes. For those who have children, understanding that hey, if this is the third or fourth place that you've been, making sure that well, shoot, we just got here, and whether or not some folks have got they got to move from one location to another for schools and games, having to uproot your family, all that stuff is a lot going on. Obviously, we need to understand the impact of the game. Whether we're talking about a team that we feel should the team that goes in with a better record thinks they should be winning, or thinks they should be losing to. Whether or not there's coaches' contracts that are up, matchups, all that stuff, has a play on what's going on. We talk about responsibilities as a referee, and even as a longtime official in the league. You get to hear the coaches talk about hey, I got a brand new staff. I've got a bunch of freshmen or new players on the team, transfers. Oh, we got new ADs and that sort of stuff. All that stuff matters as you're looking at what's going on, and how your coach is viewing the situation. And then whether you're talking about the recruiting before the game, figuring out your game plan, your matchups. And then finally, we've got years in coaching and years as a player. One way or another, just like we spend time and we have folks that have experience. you know we joke that coaches don't necessarily know the rules, and whether or not that's true shouldn't be something that we hold our hats on from the perspective of respect, right? They have the job, just like we have the job. And there's a professional relationship that should be there. And if we go in with the expectation that we're going to do our job and we're going to allow them to do theirs, that's something that matters. So as we talk about move from the perspective to pregame, this is really where you're going to set the tone for the game. Whether we talk about the referee, or we talk about the crew on the field, and in some conferences, the sideline officials are the ones that go in and talk to the referee. I'm sorry, go in and talk to the head coach, and the referee talks to the head coach on the field. And the reason for that is because the sideline officials are going to be the ones spending a majority of their time talking to the coach. At least they should be. And so we want to make sure that as we have that conversation, we're presenting a professionalism and a presence that is respectful. So your preparedness for that conversation goes a long way. Things about whether that's knowing about the coach, who's their captains, what's been going on with his history, what's going on with their season. I usually use the media interview with that coach to kind of get an idea where's the mindset at, what's the status with the team, whether there's any injuries or anything like that. You can tell a lot in that interaction. If you don't have that opportunity, things like looking at the film and or the news stories of the team, right? Here you can see what injuries happened in the previous game. You can see a lot of times who the captains are listed out if there's not a rotation. I usually ask about coin toss and that sort of thing. Obviously the basic information's about, if there's any unusual plays, um, and how you ask that question. If the answer to the question is yes, we have an unusual play, sometimes they'll say something like, oh, we switch up formations. Hey, coach, can you draw that out for me? Because, words mean things, but what words mean to coaches and what they mean to us from a rules perspective are not the same thing, right? I can remember a coach saying, we legally chop block. Like, those words don't go together. Chop block isn't legal. So, do you legally low block? Oh, yes, we do. Oh, okay. Right. Like, draw out what you mean by that. How does that look? Oh, we have an unbalanced formation. Okay. That doesn't sound like something that should be unusual, but draw it out. And why does that matter? Because then we can take that drawing, bring it back to the crew in the locker room to be able to talk to our crew. So what does that mean? That means we need to go in with a piece of paper and a writing utensil, right? We can't just go into the conversation bare hands and, hope for magic to happen. Um, you know, Usually also, confirm time for captains on the field, and all those things. They seem like minor stuff, but those are things that coaches. I'm not kidding you. They really hold tight to the way that you command that conversation is how they're going to look at the rest of this game and their interaction with you and your crew. Um, Conclude with winning words. That's the Steve Shaw approach to things. One of the things that I always say to coaches, after their questions, whatever else, coach, two most important things that matter to me are professionalism, communication. That's you, your staff, and your players. If at any point you have any questions that my sideline officials can't answer at the next dead ball, I'll come over and we can have a conversation. I'm easy to talk to. What does that do? That sets it sets the mode for conversation that, look, I am going to listen to you, but I'm also relying on, my qualified officials to do their job as well. And that, that professionalism matters to me. And trust me, there's been more than once in my career where that professionalism has been something that I've had to go back to with coaches who decide that unprofessional conversation is the way they want to go. There's we'll get into how that conversation should go. Should it turn unprofessional? But that's kind of my approach. With that being said, Mr. Latimer, did you have anything from your pregame conversation you have, whether that's in the locker room or on the field with the coach?
Sorry, I was muted. You touched on a lot, Billy, and one of the things that for me, which I rely heavily on, is for my referee to get that information and that conference that they have. But when we get on the field, the first thing I do, I try to reach out to that head coach that's on my sideline. I'm a line judge, so I'm going to have the visiting team first. So they're going to be in white. I'm going to go introduce myself to the coach, and when I do, I always take my hat off. And this goes back to the part of the professionalism that you had mentioned. And I'm not going to just call him coach. I'm going to call him Coach Saban, Coach Sanders, Coach Day, whatever his full name is, because I want to give him that level of professionalism and respect of where he's meeting. Because you want to go into a doctor's office and call him Mr. Johnson or Mr. Jones. You're going to call him Dr. Johnson or Dr. Jones. So I provide that level of respect. And then, because I'm a line of scrimmage official, my referee may or may not have asked a question about trick plays or formation. I'm going to ask him in a different way. Hey, coach, do you have any formations that we need to be wary of? Because I want to make sure that we officiate it properly for you and for us. That way, I want him to understand, we want to make sure we get this game right and this trick play or this formation correct. So maybe he can explain it to me real quick in a few minutes, and I can pass that information over to my crossfield partner so we can be, prepared for it when it happens, when we do see that special formation. Now, they don't have to. They're not under any legal obligation to explain or tell us when they're going to call us a special play, trick play, or any formation. So we need to be wary of it. But I want him to feel comfortable when that opportunity comes, when I ask that question, where he can give me a little bit of information or insight so we can be better prepared for it. That's where
they're in the car behind us. Okay.
I'm sorry. Does someone have a question?
No, someone needs to mute their mic. Go ahead.
No problem. So for me, that's where me as well as my deep wing, we will have that conversation with the coach. But that's not where we stop or where I stop. My next conversation is going to be with the players. All teams at the 50-minute mark, 45-minute mark, those quarterbacks and receivers going to go through the passing tree. So I'm going to go to my position because I'm going to literally tell them how I need for them to line up. So we won't have any illegal formations. So I want them to get used to my voice. During the week, I'm going to try my best to remember the names and the numbers of those players and have a conversation so they'll get to know my voice, how I need them to line up, so we won't have any illegal formations throughout the game, so they'll know what we're looking for as line of scrimmage officials. Then my next conversation then will be to who is going to be my get back coach. Finding out who that coach is to help me make sure the players and coaches stay back within my working room. I try to make it a little lighthearted and let them know, hey, I need to go to work on Monday. So can you please make sure that the players are back up and have my deep official to help me assist me with that situation as well. So those are the conversations that I have in pregame that will cover pretty much what I need when it comes to communicating before the game to make it easier for me during the game.
Yep. And then I know for our umpires, we'll also have our umpire who will usually check with the special teams coach on any special plays as well, since they're the ones that usually keep things exciting and interesting. So for my umpires out there, do take note. That definitely helps in making sure we don't end up with anything unusual. Hey, Stouty, from a back judge perspective, is there any conversation you're having with the coaches or anything like that?
Not so much with the coaches, but I will speak to the punt returners and get a nice rapport with them. Tell them what I want them to do, as far as giving me a good signal. And then I always quiz them. And say, what are the 2 things you can't do after you give me a signal? And they're getting better, but they used to just say, I can't run.
Right.
But now they're going to say, I can't run, I can't block. So that's my pregame with the punt returners.
Dig that. Keep them sharp. Hey, Tony Romano, anything you're talking to anybody about pregame?
Not normally coaches. If a coach introduces himself to me, we'll have a short, pleasant conversation, and then I'll try and get to the opposing coach as well. So it's equal on both sides. Most of my pregame conversations are with quarterback. Most of that is regarding substitution process and communication about questions on the field. I will occasionally talk with left tackle as well. Call them by name. I think it's important to let the players know that we know who they are. On a level of respect, that we pay attention, that we did our pregame scouting, and that sort of thing. My pregame conversation is usually very short.
Good. Appreciate that. And for anyone keeping track on their scorecard, Tony Romano's the center judge and Stouty's our back judge. So as we move on to communication.
Hey, Billy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is Frank.
Hey, Frank.
Back when I was on the line of scrimmage, I also made it a point. I mean, did what you guys talked about, but I also made it a point to know that offensive line coach and know my starting tackles. I would go to both teams' offensive line coach and say, "Hey, we're going to work on keeping your tackles up. We're talking to the other coach. We're going to talk to your players here, but let's keep those tackles up. We don't want no cheap fouls." Then I'd go talk to those starting 2 tackles on both teams and tell them, guys, stay up. You don't want any cheap fouls. Your coach don't want any cheap fouls. I said, if I got to throw a flag on you, there's 3 people that are going to be pissed. Like you said, keep it light. 3 people are going to be pissed. You're going to be pissed because you just got a flag and you're going to run your butt off. Coach is going to be pissed because you just gave him a cheap foul because you couldn't get your rear end up on the line of scrimmage. And the third person that's going to be pissed is me because I had to throw that flag. Now I got to bend over and pick that sucker back up. Keep your line up. And a lot of those guys, after they see you a couple of times, would start, hey, we know what you're going to say. Come on. And I've had offensive tackles look over at me and give me the thumbs up that says, hey, am I good or not? So
Absolutely.
I'm not afraid to talk to those offensive tackles. Keep them up.
Absolutely. Good call. Absolutely. Yes.
Yep, and then I know when on the for the receivers, Stouty, I know you talked to him about being able to shield their eyes. So as long as their hands on the helmet, right, they can put their hand up. But if it's above their head, right, we got a risk
Yes.
situation.
Yes, I do. See that. So,
Yep, and that's important, right? Because now I'll tell you a funny story about that. So a lot of times we go through that for our own pregame and talking to the players and stuff like that. But I actually had a player, from one of the schools. We had him, I don't know, for whatever reason, ended up having him 2 or 3 times in the season. And the third game, I get this call over the O2O from the center judge, and the center judge says, "Hey, number 28 wants to talk to you." And I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "You didn't come over and talk to me." So for some of those guys, it's part of their pregame too. So it's to the point previously made. It's important to recognize when you build that relationship, you're in a good spot. So that professionalism goes a long way. So as we talk about appropriate communication, the things that we want to make sure of is that there's verbal and there's nonverbal communication, right? There's the words that we use, your crewmates, your referee, with the players and with the coaches, but there's nonverbal communication too. Whether that's using preliminary signals, being able to use your mechanics for dead ball plays. Heck, some of the communication that we have is communication that gives the appearance to the crowd. So all of that matters. And then we want to make sure that as we talk about appropriate, we want it to be relevant. We don't want to talk to players as if they're coaches. I'm definitely not a fan of um, we don't want to tell players, get 77 on the line, or if 45 does that again, it's going to cost you 15. We want to, we need to, well, actually it's more like without get on the line is better than fix your formation, right? Move up on the line is more appropriate. Rather than it's going to cost you 15, KTSO, cut that out, get to your huddle. Those are more appropriate conversations. I know that there was some times where you have a situation where a player says, "Hey, he's grabbing me, he's holding me," and you want to run and tell the coach, "Hey, they're holding over there." It's like that is not a quality conversation. I promise you, that's not going to go anywhere positively quickly. You're better off saying, "Coach, we're playing a great game. We've got to work to keep your guys legal with their blocks. We're talking to both sidelines. I'm keeping an eye on it." Or, if we have a situation where we have some non-football acts going on, "Oh, that guy spit on me," or "This guy is grabbing my, push me on the ground or punch me on the ground. Hey, coach, we've got a great game going on. We just want to keep it about football. I'm talking to both sidelines. If you can keep your team focused, I'd appreciate it." Those are things that he can coach. If we get into the, "Hey, 55's punching players," or whatever, that's not right. Well, 75's punching players too, or throw the flag, right? Those are both qualified answers. And then, talking to officials, even communication amongst ourselves. I have I got a DOF. I appreciate the fact that we're all ready to take a test at any given moment, but you have the expectation that we're all on the same page with, I got a DOF on blue. You're like, okay, I don't know who you're talking about or what there's a defensive offside, number 53 defense offside. Got it. Was it, so what was the result of the play? Right. We got to run through the details. So we make sure we're providing, quality information. And as always, anytime you got to go talk to the coach, we definitely want to be clear, be concise, and be gone. Those are the words I like. Mr. Latimer, anything you want to add to that, sir?
No, I agree with all of your assessments, the conversation with your crewmates. Of course, confirming downs. One of the things that I do to help out with, say, take my referee, or let me back up to the crewmates. With my crewmates, I like to have conversations with my crewmates throughout the week. I don't want to wait to the pregame, throughout pregame, or 60 minutes before kickoff. Let's have a few conversations throughout the week, even if we work together. There might be a couple plays that might be questionable plays on how we could have worked that better, and somehow we can institute and put that in our pregame conversation, the night before. But having us all on the same page, I think, is very important. Conversation, say, with my referee, again, having that same conversation on how he liked the files reported. Does he want me to report it to him how he's going to renounce it so he can just give it over the mic verbatim? Does he want just the result of the play first and then announcement? So having that conversation with your referee is very critical and crucial, because it gives him an opportunity to process what you're going to provide for him, and giving him all that information so that he can be better prepared. Because not only is he on national TV, they're not going to say that white hat was terrible. They're going to say those refs were terrible, meaning the entire crew. Players, I'm a big proponent of not only using my whistle, but verbalizing what I like from the players. When the play goes out of bounds on my sideline, or say at the bottom of the numbers, I will come in easily and say, hey, good sportsmanship, guys, way to roll off, using positive reinforcement, try to mitigate any negative action that could happen later during the game, letting them know they can come and talk to me if they have any questions. And then again, with that coach, typically we have 3-4-3-4 when it comes to media timeouts, and each team has 3 timeouts per half. On those media timeouts, I would always go to the coach. Coach, do you have a question? If you have anything, feel free to come to me. Reminding him how many timeouts not only does his team has, but his opponent has as well. So, constantly communicating with him, letting him know we have that communication between the two of us. He doesn't have to call my referee, because if he calls the referee over, the clock is stopped. If he's talking to me, the clock can still be on the ready, and the clock is still winding. And if it's any detail, real deep information, then of course I'll have my deep wing to come down with me, and we can have that 2-on-1 conversation. Because if he's disputing a call, I do not want him to say, well, Derek call my supervisor and say, Derek said this. No, I have another body over there with me who's another official that we can communicate. And then that communication, my palms will be down. I'll have a relaxed demeanor, speaking with a monotone voice, trying to bring his level of communication down to my level so we can talk as gentlemen, and then just answer the question. He may be screaming and yelling, and that's fine, but just answer the question.
Yep, like that a lot. And I think on the inside of the line there, Mr. Romano, as far as communication with players, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Latimer that positive reinforcement really works. I deploy that method often when a player makes kind of an unseen great play, whether it's a backside block, or another good example would be a running back picking up a blitzing linebacker. That's a tough block. That's a really physical block. And I just let them know I saw it. Like, hey, great block, good play. One thing I would add, down the middle of the field, when we're under 2 minutes, or now this year after the 2-minute timeout, communication with the quarterback when it comes to clock status. Not every quarterback has a good enough awareness of the clock to really know, and to be in his hip pocket, just letting him know the clock stopped, or the clock's going to run, or the clock will start with the snap, whatever the situation is. I think helps the game. It reduces confusion on the offensive part. It's a reminder for me as well. So I use a lot of humor as well when I can with the players. That way I can keep constant communication. And I'm not a big guy. I don't have a huge presence in the middle. Some of those guys weigh 150 pounds more than I do. So I have to do things differently than just being physically present. I have to use my words more.
And that's an important point, actually, Tony, that you make. I think a lot of officials kind of lose track of the fact that, showing a presence isn't just using your body. using your voice to show a presence, is definitely important no matter what position you're working. Mr. Latimer mentioned it. I think actually everyone that's talked so far, has said, your ability to use your voice, being silent on the field is not good, whether we're talking about, communicating with players, coaches, or your crewmates. Using your voice can make a difference. A lot of times using your voice is going to be more important than using your hands. Touching players can get you in trouble, especially if a player doesn't know you're not a player. So you have to do the things that matter in order to make sure your presence is felt. Stouty, anything from a back judge position to add to that as far as communication perspective? I know you and I do a lot with clocks.
Yeah. I'm like Tony. When I see a good play, I'll definitely make sure I let them know that I saw that. But no, I think it's all been covered.
Good stuff. So just some basic rules of thumb, and I think this is Mr. Bullock, did you have anything you wanted to add, sir?
Yeah, real quick, when you're coming to a coach with a foul, if you tell them it's defensive offsides or you tell them what's holding, well, they don't know the details. Once you can get those details from the calling official, or if you made that call, give him that extra. If that coach asks for that extra and you don't have it, say, Coach, I will get it to you. Go get it at the first opportunity and bring him that information. It may be 6 plays later and he's already forgot about it, but you come back, you just got, as Covey says, you got money in the bank, you started developing it. On timeouts, I will tell them timeouts just like Mr. Latimer did. I will also look up and make sure that scoreboard is correct on timeouts. Coach, you've got 2 timeouts. They've got 3 timeouts. That board is correct, because they'll forget what we told them. They can look up at that board. They'll know what timeouts they have, and they don't have to come yelling at it. How many timeouts I got left? They'll know they can go look at that board. So we got to make sure that board is right too, and we can communicate that with our coaches.
It's a great point. All the secrets are up there on that board. Score, time, timeouts, yard line to gain. It's all there. And if it's not, there's some things we can do to back ourselves up to make sure we get it straight. And trust me, I've been plenty of places that don't have it, but we definitely want to make sure that if it's not correct, we can get it corrected or at least be aware of it. The stuff on the field is obviously what we're using for play to play, but what's on that board is what everybody sees. So we want to make sure that's accurate, whether it's time, score, and other information. So as we kind of look at our basic rules here, and I think everyone kind of led into this pretty good. This is really more of a checklist for y'all. Some stuff I kind of threw together that I think becomes important for us to remember. And, going back to having that empathy to understand who's on the other side. One, we don't want to go alone. We don't want to have one-on-one conversations with coaches. Make sure there's another official with you. Obviously, if you're having conversations during the game, then we want to keep that concise and, explicit to what needs to be discussed. And sometimes the right answer is, Coach, I'm officiating the play right now. I can't talk to you and officiate at the same time. I'll talk to you at the next dead ball. But we really want to make sure that, a he said, she said situation is never good. So we want to make sure that if we're having a detailed back and forth, that there's someone there with us. We want to respond to questions, not comments. For all of my basketball officials out there, you should be experts at this. Coach says that's a terrible call. Well, that's his feelings, and I guess he's welcome to them. But a lot of times from a referee perspective, if you go over and you talk to the coach, and he's got a lot of comments, we're going to give him a moment to get his vent out. But basically, we want to find out, Coach, what's your question? You want to be able to address the situation so that we can wrap it up. We definitely want to make sure one person at a time. No one likes to be ganged up on, right? If you've got 3 or 4 people talking to you at once, that's a situation where it feels like, wait a minute, I thought I was having a discussion, and now this is turning into an argument, and then voices start raising, and we don't want to do that. So in general, the way I tend to look at it is, if the sideline official has called over the referee to the sideline, at that point, sideline official, you're a passenger. So we're going to have a one-on-one conversation. If there's something that's asked of you, then, provide that information, be concise, and then, let's try to move on. But really, we want to give everyone the opportunity to say what they have to say. Once again, if there doesn't seem to come to an end, inject the opportunity for the coach to get an answer to a question. So I'll show an example, but there's sometimes where the coach will ask a question, you start answering it, the coach talks over you while you're trying to complete what you're answering. And I've said things like, coach, do you want to hear what I saw, or do you want to be angry? Right? Like I'm here to answer. I came over here to talk to you, and now you want to cut me off. So it's okay, right? Either way, I'm good, but I really want to be able to answer your questions. So it's a real, it's not try, and you find your way in the words that work for you, but really the point is you're trying to provide the facts, which starting with that point, your goal is to be a good communicator. You want to provide information and the conversation so you can get back to the game. So if you've got time, you go over to talk to a coach during a timeout, that conversation should not extend beyond the timeout. You go over, you say what you have to say. Timeout's coming up, coach. We got to get back to the game. I'll talk to you the next break if we need to. That's it, right? We don't need to have any extended kind of, barring some unique situations. And then, just the facts. We don't have to go into feelings or what we thought. The pass was in the air. Calling official had had the defender grab the receiver while the ball was in the air, and that was why there was pass interference called. Well, what about this over here? Whatever, coach. That's what he saw, and that's the end of it. There's not really a need to have a whole lot more conversation or justification. Which kind of takes us to the next deal. If you don't know, the coach is like, hey, that guy over there, he's fouling all over the place. It's like, okay, coach, tell me what you saw, right? Because you don't know what's going on. Tell me what you saw. Explain to me what you saw, right? You're giving that opportunity for communication. When you do that, okay, coach, if that's what happened, I'll talk with my crew and get back to you on that. One of the things I'll tell you, one of the points that was brought up is that, if you tell a coach you're going to bring them information, make sure you do that. The one thing I'll tell you is that, there's a time to need to go back and provide information. But if the coach has moved on, don't peel off the Band-Aid. If he's moved on, you've moved on. If you go over and he's like, what's the answer? Then provide the information. We want to be honest about who we are and what we say we're going to do. And hey, it might be a while before the coach is ready to, ask the answer to that question. So you keep it in your back pocket. But the moral of the story is, have information, get information, be ready to provide the information if it's necessary. We don't have to agree. Coach, you tell the coach one thing. Well, I think it's something else. Okay, coach, we don't have to agree. I'm providing you with what I saw or what the officials on the field called. If you don't agree, we'll all look at the film. But the point is we've got to move on. And so, trying to have the argument of, I've got the, I've got the right answer. Don't get into that. Don't apologize. If there's a situation that there's not an agreement or something that seems to be at a disadvantage of another team, that's not a fault. It just is, right? So there's nothing worse than coming over. Well, coach, I'm sorry. We got another hold on you. We're like, oh, what? Why are you sorry? What are we sorry about? You're apologizing. Is this your fault? We're here to provide facts. So apologizing is not the way to go. Now, don't get me wrong. There are times, and you need to do it very sparingly, where if you make the decision, whether that's as a sideline official, we provided the wrong number. I had a situation where made a call on a block in the back as a side judge and a kick return, gave the wrong number. Coach said, what was the number? I said, it was 35. We don't have a 35 on the kick return team. We don't even have a 35 on our team. Coach, you know what? If that's the case, I'm sorry. I'm going to work harder for you. Give me an opportunity. But the point of the point, the matter of fact is, you know, you can admit when you're wrong, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're wrong in what you did. Those are two different things. And then, you know, the most important point, you know, we all have parents. Anyone that's ever tried to have an argument with their mother, you go ahead and let me know. Send me an email if you've ever won. But in general, that's not usually the case. So, you know, don't try arguing with a coach is pretty much the same way. You know, don't try to have the last word. Sometimes the conversation can end with okay, and whatever they have to say, they can say it while you walk away, or they can say it while you're, you know, moving on to the next play. But don't focus on getting the last word or being right. That's not necessarily anything that's going to win for you. Mr. Latimer, from a sideline official's perspective and talking with coaches, is there anything in here I left out?
Not at all. Not at all. You hit the nail on the head. I think you covered everything. Again, for us, it's just having that constant, well, I won't call it constant, but having that communication, because the coaches are communicating, the offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, position coaches. So I try not to always bother and become a pest, but I want to let them know that we're here. I'm here for them. Do not call the referee. And my referee knows, or my old referee knows I have a new referee, but I have to bring him a speed, because both my CrossFit partner feel the same way. Do not come to our sideline. We got it all under control, because if you come, that means he has lost confidence in me. He's going to supersede me to go talk to you. That means, what am I there for? You might as well just take me off the crew, because I'm not doing what I need to do as an official. So for me, if I don't have the answer, and as you mentioned earlier, I will let the coach know. I will get it as quickly as possible. If it's, you know, a number or whatever the situation is, use the O2O to communicate with your crew. Hey, I have a great umpire. I'm not sure if he's on the call. Ed, he's good at, hey, Ed, what was that number? You know, take him a little time, and he says it softly. That was number 64. You know, if time permits, I tell him then, but if not, right after the next dead ball situation, hey, coach, that hole's on number 64, and move on, just like you said. No need for a long diatribe.
Dig it. And you know, as we talk about that, you know, this kind of the situations that we talk about, you know, we want to understand a personnel. Sideline officials are building a relationship, as Mr. Latimer said. So what does that mean? All my sideline officials, own your sideline. You know, I've got a couple of plays. We'll see if we get to them, but you know, long and short of it, we want to make sure that that relationship belongs to the sideline official. It shouldn't require a referee or middle of the field official or an official from the other sideline to come over to provide information. On the other side of the same token, referees, if you've got to go over to talk to a coach, own that conversation. If there's information that needs to come from an official not on that sideline, don't bring that guy over there like you're going to the principal's office. You know, unless that guy decides or gal decides to go over there, you know, during a media timeout or a team timeout and wants to have that conversation on their own. You know, going back to, you know, bringing up reasons to, you know, shake the hornet's nest. You know, I don't necessarily recommend it, but if that's what you need to do, that's fine. But in general, you know, we want to, as referees, we want to own the conversation so that we can move on and make that concise. As I said here, we should need to have conversations with coaches immediately after called fouls or scores. You know, I don't like talking to coaches after scores or after fouls unless it happens to be a media timeout and they want to have a conversation. I realize that every conference has kind of their own rules on how they want to do communication. I try to do it natural dead ball periods. So I talk to coaches between halves. Some conferences want you to, as a referee, to talk between each quarter. That's fine. But as Derek mentioned, you know, if that official is off somewhere, I'm sorry, if that coach is off coaching up his team, there's no reason to interject ourselves there. You know, and then, you know, we talk about looking to prolong or bring up past situations. The coach brings it up for whatever. So, you know, we talk about body language. So, you know, you always want to be aware of your interactions. So, you know, here's a situation, you know, we're at the end of first half. The teams, you have two teams that go out through the same tunnel. we had a play where there was a change of a call from an incomplete pass to a touchdown. And so, looking at the score, this went from a situation from where the team was up to the team being down, and we didn't have any natural dead ball opportunities. So the coach made the decision he wanted to have a conversation while his team was waiting to go off the field. So, in general, we assume that, there's no cameras anywhere or whatever. But as we look at the situation, right now, we've got a coach who wants to have a conversation, and, he wants to know what's going on. So the things to note, right, is that we've got a second official here that's there. So this is not a one-on-one conversation. Here we are, we're eye to eye, but not nose to nose. Hands are down by my side. We're not, it's not an aggressive situation. It's a real, by the way, let's answer the question. And so, the the deal here is that the coach wants to, kind of argue his point, and it's like, let me answer your question. Okay, yeah, I want to hear what you have to say. Here's what we saw. The receiver had possession of the ball, 1 foot in bounds. Ball came in through, and he goes, that's what you saw. And, and that's it. That's the end of the conversation. So something that could have been, an aggressive, not positive situation ends up, being a very by the way moment. But, it's important that we stay aware of, once again, our body language and what's going on, and then having the awareness, there is always a camera on you. So we don't want to let that go. Mr. Latimer, anything you want to add to that, sir?
No, I had to learn that, as I don't know where everyone works as you move up. And I think someone mentioned it before the call started, and how that you officiate, the more cameras that you have. For me, we have the basic, I believe maybe 7 cameras for FCS, but in the playoffs, we are pretty much on an FBS. We have a whole bunch of cameras. So as a line of scrimmage official, you're going to be next to the coach quite often. So you have to be mindful of your body language, of your tone, of how you project yourself. So you want to be all calm and cool as much as possible. And like you said, palms down and relax, conversation mode, not only to the coach, but also if you have a crew conversation. Are you communicating with your partner? You don't want to be talking and gesturing a lot with your hands. Where I believe it was week 2 or 3 this past season, we had a crew communication in the backfield, myself and the umpire and my crossfield partner, and I'm gesturing with my hands. I didn't like it. It didn't come off well to me on camera. So I made it a point to try to have my communications, having my hands down by my side in a more relaxed tone, and project myself I would say in a more camera ready fashion.
That's right. Hey, I see Mr. Villar's out there. I'm going to call him out if he can. Anything that you want to add from the perspective of that communication and the presence on the field, sir?
I thought I snuck on, but no, all very good points. From my perspective,
Dig it. So got a couple of plays here. Thank you, Mr. Villar. Couple of plays here to talk about just kind of crew communication and sideline ownership. So I'm gonna bring these up here real quick, and as we're going through them, like I said, please don't hesitate to speak up or ask any questions. All right. So looking at talk about ownership of our sidelines. So let's go to here. There we go. So, we got a clear situation. So, we'll go through the steps of look at the play. So 9:38, you had a team fighting to get into the playoffs and another team just looking to play spoiler. We got a one-sided score, and the team who's up is kicking out of their end zone. So we've definitely got a situation where we're looking at a tight play potential. We got a lot of guys there on defense looking to rush the situation. Clock is running. We're in the 3rd quarter, 4th and 10. So as we look at this play and have it roll on here, so we have a snap. Okay, we have a situation now where we have a potential running roughing into the kicker. We have a kicker getting up off the ground to see what's going on. Play ends with a fair catch. So as we're having the conversation, we want to take a look and see what's happening there with the contact and what did we see contact wise with the play. So as we look at the kicker here, we've got Titchell running roughing. So Mr. Latimer, from a sideline official's perspective, so one of the things that you notice is as the conversation's being had, we've got our hands on the O2O, so the communication between the center judge and the referee, the rest of the crew can hear that. So from a line of scrimmage perspective, Mr. Latimer, what are you doing?
And next to the coach, the offended coach here, for give him some information here and giving him the possible options. Don't know, I might not even go that far. I probably will just wait to make for you all to make the determination on your call. And I'll let him know what his options are from there.
So
So
as
if
we
it's-
go, as we're in this conversation, the conversation is we either have roughing or running into the kicker. So that is there's a flag down, and as we're going back and forth through the conversation, you know, who has the options here?
Would be the offensive team, the kicking team.
All right, and
So
so
in that
Oh, I-
situation, I'll be standing next to the coach and like I said, give him the option. If this is running into the kicker, this can only be enforced from the previous spot. If it's, roughing the kicker, it'll be 15 yards from your ball. That's all I'll have to say for right now till we get determination of what you all decide.
so then referee comes out and says, okay, we have running into the kicker, number 31.
Of course, he's going to be screaming and yelling. He's going to want to keep the ball. He's going to want roughing. This is where I say, hey, coach, I determined this was just running into the kicker. What would you like to do? Would you like to decline this? Or would you like to enforce this from the previous spot and re-kick? This is not a reviewable play.
Right, and that, you know, that's the information, right?
That's it. Because he's going to scream and yell. He's going to want 15 yards. They all want 15 yards on this.
Sure. So
Yeah.
now the question is, if he says, well, I want to tack it on to the end of the kick.
Coach can't tack this on. This is one of the exceptions, whereas this can only be enforced from the previous spot.
So do you ever let the referee get over and ask the coach the question on what he wants to do?
No, sir. Do not come to my sideline, my new referee, Justin Ackley. Don't do it. I think he's on the call.
Sure. Hey, and the moral of the story, right, is that this goes a lot faster if the sideline official is getting the information from the coach, and then, you know, we're able to move on without needing to have that interaction. Once we get the information, we can then make the call and move on. I think the biggest deal with that is that, you know, we really want to rely on that sideline official to have the awareness of, you know, what are our options, and then, you know, what are we going to do next? So as we kind of get into that vein, okay, so here we have a situation.
Hey, Billy,
Yes, sir.
one question about what Mr. Latimer just said.
Yes, sir.
If he wanted to review that, that is reviewable, right? For touching of a kick? If he wanted to say, hey, that was,
Part.
I believe he blocked part of that before he ran into him. Would that be any part of reviewable?
If you're looking at the block, did he get blocked into, replay can't get involved to that. Did the ball get tipped and then he hit the kicker? We can look at that from a replay perspective, but the block we can't.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
And then and that the point behind that actually is that if there was a call to say in that instance that there was no foul, anyone who's new to the process, there was no foul for running into or roughing the kicker because the ball was tipped, that is an announcement that would need to be made so that replay can evaluate that as well.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir. Cool. So then as we look at the next play here, good question. So of course, you know, punt play, why wouldn't it be? So we look at the situation here. We've got a 7-0 game, with 31 seconds in the second quarter. So with 3 seconds on the play clock, but 31 seconds in the second quarter. So and I believe we are into we're in a running clock situation. So what situation is this potentially? Not all at once.
Then
10-second runoff, right? So here we have whistle for delay a game. So now, as you look over here up top, we see our sideline official is making a beeline for the coach. So, okay, here we go. The conversation is, this is going to be a delay a game. There's a 10-second runoff option. Do you want that? And it's right. If they want the 10-second runoff option, they also have to enforce the penalty, correct? It's not decline the penalty and take the 10-second runoff. That's not the way that works. So we're going to take the penalty and the 10-second runoff. While that's happening, the official on the bottom of the screen should then be having the conversation with his coach. Do you want to take a timeout or don't you? Now, if we use our football IQ, see the hand signal? We got a hand signal here, right? So we talk about communication. He wants the runoff. Okay, so we're using the O2O, but we're still using hand signals. He wants the 10-second runoff. We want to make sure we see that. So then on the other side, what we want to see, we have that conversation. Coach does not want a timeout. The TV's not going to show it, but we want to kind of give a safe signal, right? Coach does not want to take a timeout. So we will have the 10-second runoff and we'll set the clock. That makes this whole situation go a heck of a lot faster. If everyone's doing their part on the sidelines, we're having good, clear communication. We can get the penalty, the 10-second runoff, and we're back to running faster than you can say what happened. Where it gets weird is, okay, I'm going to run to one sideline and have a conversation with the coach. Then we're going to run to the other sideline, have the conversation with the coach. We have sideline officials. Everyone gets one check. Let everyone get the opportunity to do their job. Anything to add to that or any questions on that? Sweet. I think the only one I had was, we had an unusual play, and then we'll get everybody back to their regularly scheduled evenings. So, here we are in a situation late in the second quarter. We have a 2nd and 10 situation. Right, we need to fix our box. We've got team with the ball is losing. Everyone's got timeouts. All looks good. End up in a situation here. We have a muff snap. Something that appears to be a potentially batted ball, a defensive recovery in the end zone, and a touchdown. So now we need to have a conversation about what's going on. The first question is, what the heck happened, right? And who can we talk to for help? So the primary person that can help with this call, and we'll get a look. Coach definitely wants to know what's going on. Right here, we have our deep official. He's ready to provide information. He's not hiding out. He's not running for a ball. He's staying right here on the sideline so he can talk to the coach and provide information to make sure he's informed what's going on. Deep officials, you are not left out of the the process of communicating. So we definitely want to make sure we're actively a part of the process. Help out in that coach communication. So we're all trying to figure it out. Talking to the center judge, find out. Okay, hey, best conversation ever. Hey Tony, his words were, "If you have batting, I love that call." Sweet. Well, now that we got that out of the way, now let's get the details out the way. Dave spotted the fouls behind the line of scrimmage. The result of the play was a touchdown. That bat was prior to the possession, so we're going to enforce that penalty from the previous spot. Okay, that's a 10-yard penalty. Let's go ahead and get the ball moving, let the coaches know what's going on, and now we can make the announcement in the snow and get everybody moving. And by the time we're done with this, right, everybody should be good to go except for this guy, right? He's still trying to figure out what the hell happened. He's like, I don't even understand what is an illegal bat. The other issue he's got is he's trying to figure out how he just went from scoring a touchdown to now the other team having a first down. He's definitely wanting to know what the heck's going on. So this is one of those few times where we have an unusual situation, and you know, both sideline officials are actively trying to provide information, but you know, he's really trying to figure out what is going on. So our sideline official, hey, he'll come over, he'll talk to you. Let's keep you out of trouble. You know, we all get a good look at the play, and we're going to see the defender clearly gets a hand back, swats the ball. That's not a good look. We'll get a secondary look at it. And here we are, a defender potentially batting the ball forward. There you go. You've seen it once in your career. It wasn't just on a test. But, you know, when you got a coach who's been coaching for 20 years, he's like, I've never in my life seen what the heck's going on. Please explain to me something. So it's like, yeah, here's what happened. I tell you, I've never seen it either, other on a test, right? Find some levity in the situation, but here's the answer to the question. He's just trying to understand. So how do we not get a touchdown? The bat. Well, we possessed the ball, yes, but the foul occurred before you possessed it. Well, then why do they get a first down? Well, because it's a 10-yard penalty from the previous spot. It's a very unusual play. This is latitude that we're giving for an unusual situation. If this was a hold, we're not having that whole conversation. And what he says, and we end it with, he goes, I've been doing this for a long time. First time in my career I've ever heard this. I said, mine too, coach. And now he wants to argue the fact, isn't it second down? And, you know, we got that resolved. We moved on. But the point is, you know, there's a time and place to have that conversation, and there's a time and place to put them on ice. You get to decide how and when you want to do that. But in the end, right, we want to make sure that we're sticking with our professionalism. Any questions, thoughts, feelings? Sweet. Well, I want to thank everyone for their time. Mr. Latimer, thank you. Mr. Bullock, Stouty, and Mr. Romano, thank you all. Everyone else, thank you for your time. And
Thanks. You're welcome. Well, thank you for putting this together, Billy. Thank you so much for the
Thank you,
opportunity.
guys.